Howdy, y'all.
Hey guys, so welcome back. We are so glad that you joined us today. Today we're going to be talking about...
Monkeypox. No?
But we're going to be talking about our opinion of, is there going to be a food shortage? What do we think that's going to kind of look like in this country? And just some of the different factors that might be
Monkeypox
playing into that. Somebody's really wound up tonight about monkeypox.
Well, first off, y'all, you need to
him.
know that we already filmed this video 24 hours ago.
But it didn't go well. So,
and due to whatever. Technology
doesn't always
go well
with us. So,
especially.
It's okay. We're doing take two, and I'm going to try to keep him subdued.
I forgot to take my tranquilizers.
So anyway, let's sit down. Let's talk about it, guys. Let's get into it.
I'm sitting down.
And let's talk about food shortages. Our opinion. Could it potentially? What's the potentials? There's so many things going on in the world right now, right? Like, let's just talk about all of the different, just overview real quick.
I think we need to stop.
Okay.
And I think instead of doing that,
okay,
I think we need to be positive and think good things, and all reality will stop.
Okay.
And it'll only be good and positive.
Just whatever.
Let's do that instead.
We think, then it will be. Okay.
It's very metaphysical and like Zen Buddhist or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I don't buy it. All right, let's go.
Okay, so here in reality,
there you go. That's cute.
Let's just talk about what's going on a little bit, a brief overview of some of these factors that may or may not play into a food crisis type situation. And when we say food crisis, it might just be that it is so inflated that we might not be able to eat the normal things that we normally could eat because we just can't afford it, right? Especially if we're a large family or whatever, a normal family with a normal income and a couple kids even, right? You might just not be able to afford all the fluff and stuff and leisurely foods that you have grown accustomed to because you just can't. So I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna look like. What's your thoughts?
Nobody knows what it's gonna look like. It's all conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
So we can only postulate on the possibility.
Exactly.
But let's do that.
Right.
Because it's fun.
Well, let's go back. And I mean, let's think about 2 years ago, right?
Let's think about a Weimar Republic. Okay, 2 years ago.
Let's just go back 2 years.
Way back then?
2 years ago, okay? So I don't know about...
Postmodern history, 2 years ago.
Everybody has this moment, right, of when they realized what was going on 2 years ago. And I think when we retell our stories of whenever we became aware of what was going on in our world, it's just like a 9/11 story, or probably like a JFK story.
I was going to say that
something
too.
like that, right? You have that moment where it's like, for me, I went to the grocery store, I had my list, I had my things that I was going to get. I walked into the grocery store and whammo, the whole world had changed. And it was frantic, and it was Southern hospitality frantic.
In a genteel way.
In a very genteel way. People are just very...
An armed society is a polite society.
People were just a little more intense. They didn't know what was going on. The mood was different, and...
They were troubled.
And I was just noticing the hustle bustle, the empty shelves.
The hubbub.
Just some hubbub going on that normally is not at all in those stores. It's so chill. And I was just like, okay, forget the list. Let's go to like sustainability mode. Let's go full on prepper mode right now, and let me get to those shelves where those canned goods are, those shelf stable foods, those dry goods like rice, beans, all those things. Let me get there and let me see what I can get my hands on. I got there and there was nothing, guys. The shelves were cleaned out. There was not one thing that was shelf stable that was still on the shelf that I would have brought home for our family to eat. There just wasn't. And then I went over to the meat section. That was wiped clean. Eggs gone, milk gone, bread gone. All of your staples were just gone and not there anymore. Go around to the paper products section and it was just wiped clean. It was literally bare shelves. And I said to a lady, like, what is going on? Like, I can't believe this. She was like, I have no idea. And I'm like, oh my soul, like, what just happened overnight? It felt like to me, because I wasn't, I guess, in the loop as much as most people are. So it just really it took me by surprise. And I know every one of you have your own story of when it became reality for you and what that looked like for you from that moment on for the next probably 9 months to a year, what that all looked like with disruptions, right, in our food chain. Like for a long time, you couldn't get meats, or if you could, they were just a few and they were really expensive.
It's the frailty of the on-time inventory model, and so that was completely exposed bare 2 years ago. Now, any company worth a plug nickel will have realized that and have made corrections and changes to their inventory model, or at least made an attempt to correct their inventory model, or they are complicit and they're kind of cool with the status quo and the state of affairs and the agenda, because there's a lot of that too. So, 2020 taught us lots of things, but then since 2020, there's been the additional systematic demolition of our food infrastructure, whether it is the culling of mass quantities of all different sorts of animals due to PCR tests, or whether it is the unexplainable deconstruction of food processing facilities and food processing plants, and 40 or 50 or 60 since January. Maybe that's just coinkydink or simpatico or synergy, or maybe it's by design. And
rationing has been such a new part of reality, right? So like today I did a pickup order for my groceries, and I just know now that when I put in my order for my groceries, some of those things might be replaced, and a lot of those things are not going to be available, and everything has limits now. So when I put in how many bags of frozen fruit I want, it has a limit on it, and I can only get so many bags of each different kind now. And that's just the new normal, is limits, rationing, and then unavailability. It's just the way that it is. So I had spent close to $200 on groceries today. When I got my order, it was $117 worth of groceries was what was actually available in our local store. So
welcome to Venezuela.
This is just the new normal. So this, for our family, it plays into our mindset of living simply, eating simply, growing as much as possible, and just being prepared, and
modifying our diet,
trying to stay as healthy as possible while doing that, being really purposeful in why we still can get healthy foods and grow our own healthy foods, trying to really focus on that.
Growing less collard greens.
I think, well, people talk about nutrient dense foods, right? So if you're eating nutrient dense foods, you don't have to eat as much food because the food that you're eating is so
correct
dense in
That's
nutrition.
why I'm a very big fan of grass-fed beef.
So absolutely, raising our own cattle has come into play, and then we have the availability of a butcher, a processing place. Like that's a minimum of 6 months to a year out. It has been since 2020 the way that it is, and we've learned how to process our own animals.
And that is just as much. That's just as much as it is supply and demand, as it is the EPA not issuing licenses.
Right.
We know of 2 brand new facilities that are state of the art that have been fully constructed, that are brand new,
Ready to go.
One since 2020,
Yes.
and it is still not open because the they, them, those, and the goobermans and the people that are trying to keep us all safe and trying to keep us healthy are just refusing to give the man his license so
yeah.
that he can function and get a return on his investment,
Which really
and
hurts
provide a service to all of
the
us that
community.
need it. Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Of course. And that's why all of this government infrastructure and all this quote unquote oversight, all it is a technocratic tyranny, oligarchy, and maybe it is a little bit of panhandling to the control groups or whatever these legislative boondoggle things.
Well, it's definitely a social experiment, and we know from the Agenda 2020, what is it? Agenda 21. We know from Agenda 21 that this was a 10-year game plan that to socially change the construct of society, to totally.
And we also know, in accordance with Agenda 21, they were actually behind. This is what's very interesting about Agenda 21, is they were actually behind the curve that they had set, but the year 2020 allowed them to accelerate past Agenda 21, and now we're on to Agenda 2030 and all the green blah blah blah, and we're all going to die, because of the cow farts and all that stuff.
Right. So what can we do, right? So we know about food shortages, we know about limits, we know about rationing, we know about disruptions in the food chain. Let's not even go into fuel.
You got to be the supply chain.
Right. Let's not even get into cost of
We don't even-
fuel and how that's affecting
If you
everything.
if you just crunch some basic numbers, and we know that they're planning double-digit fuel. They're already changing the pumps because you don't make that kind of capital expense to change pumps to add digits, knowing that it's one, you do it, you spend that kind of money because you know it's going to happen, and two, it's going to happen. And you think about when regular gasoline is $10 a gallon and what that's going to do to the cost of everything, and the ease of mobility. The ability to move. We were just talking about airline tickets, and we don't buy a lot of airline tickets, but a friend of ours just flew back here, and his ticket, his $150 or $200 ticket was $600. And I think about all these people that are flying all around, and wow. And that's going to change.
And that's like a 2-hour flight. That's not
That's probably an hour and a half
It's
flight.
not even a long flight. So I can't imagine what a long flight is. And then, you just think about the fertilizer crisis and the wheat.
The Ukraine, it's the breadbasket of Europe. And I believe we have literally 10 weeks of wheat left in the world, as far as on a mass scale. Obviously not due to local
Right.
infrastructure.
So then how that's going to impact other grains and stuff. So if we have a shortage of wheat, then that's going to pour over into our corn supply and our rice supply and different things like that.
And the way a capitalistic market used to be is it would project and foresee these things and react in advance so that when there would be this foreseen type of shortage, it would already have something in place to meet the need and the demand. But now that we're part of a technocratic oligarchy, crony capitalist, system where capitalism has been replaced since like the early 1900s and all the monopoly stuffs and the Warburgs and the Rockefellers and the J.P. Morgans and all this stuff, they've systematically destroyed capitalism and rebuilt it in their own image, then to demonize it, right, and blame capitalism, so that way the Pope can come out with the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds and say, we need inclusive capitalism. And what that means is we need to take all your money and we need to stick it in our pockets. But we're going to say that we're going to help poor people. So that's what the inclusive capitalism is. And once they collapse everything and you can't buy anything, they say, hey, listen, look, you got the monkeypox, so you should just stay home. We're going to pay you some basic universal income. And look, and if you stay home, you're not going to have to spend all this money on gasoline.
I mean,
it's expensive.
We've experienced little glimpses of even that, right? And like our redistribution of wealth and different things like that they've even tinkered with, right, in the last couple years. So all of these systems are being tried and tested and strained. And so then what can we do as just a family, just one family, or maybe you're a single person or something? What can you do? And I think the most empowering thing that you can do and the most significant thing that you can do is, well, one, relocate.
Well, yes.
Absolutely. Top of the
that's
list.
a no-brainer.
Relocate to the most freest area that you can possibly be in and get yourself a piece of dirt that you can grow your food. You could have some livestock, and that's number one.
And you can create a modicum of exchange. I was talking to friends of ours, and they have a large farm, and they have a lot of different infrastructure and different things, and we were talking about the only way, we use the word self-sustainable and we want to be self-sustainable, but the only true way of self-sustainability is community, and where if they're better at certain things or they have better infrastructure at certain, whatever it may be, maybe it's certain food items, different trades or whatever, they can. This is where trades came from, y'all. The reason people specialized in trades is because, like, hey, I have all this equipment. I'm really good at this. I'll do this, and I'll do this for you in exchange for, you're really good at either growing something or propagating something, and that is what community is all about.
And we experience that all the time here in the country. Like the guy that came out and takes care of our horses' feet and trims the feet and everything for the horses. He said to the boys, oh, you have a wood mill? I have 6 horse trailers that need to be refloored. So sure, we will happily pay him to trim our horses' feet, because within the next month or two, the boys are probably going to be reflooring his horse trailer. So then the money I don't know that we even need to exchange money at that point.
Sure.
Because it does just become this back and forth type system. And we have that with several of our neighbors for several different things, that it's like...
And I try to force them to barter.
I'll pay you to do this. And then next week, I'm going to pay you back to do this. And then I'm going to pay you to do this. And we're still using money as the token, but it can very easily be, and it has been for some things,
goods or services.
Just, hey, what do you want to trade me for? We'll just straight up trade. I mean, it just becomes silly at some point.
The people that tax you don't like that, because there's, if there's currency involved, especially if there's a central bank digital currency involved, they can track it, they can turn it on, they can turn it off. And that's why they don't want you growing anything, and they don't want you being sustainable.
Well, yeah, because
that's why they hate you.
People are asking, like, what is something good to invest in? What would be something really good to invest in right now in our current state that we're in this country?
Almost anything.
And I would say tangible things,
other than
right?
crypto.
Things that you can actually hold, that you have, that you know have a value, right? So of course land, but
crypto will only be valuable post collapse on when the system is reinflating, if that happens.
Right.
Because you could have billions of dollars of crypto, but one, if you can't access it, or two, if you can't eat it.
Yeah.
Or two, if you can't exchange it for somebody that can feed you, you're kind of beat.
I'd rather have cows than crypto. I mean, honestly, I can trade cows for something.
And we're watching crypto being manipulated right now, and it's following the market.
Yeah.
And there's no economic indicator that indicates, if anything, crypto should almost explicitly be completely contrarian to the market. I mean, at times it's going to appear to rise with the market, but when all the economic indicators are flushing and gold's going down, silver's going down, even like different non-precious metals are going down, and you got oil somehow continuing to rise. Well, that's not somehow,
Right.
And then you have, crypto tanking with the market. You can be some smart financial guy and you can't explain that to me, because the whole premise and concept, and of course there's a lot of speculative buying in crypto, but there's got to be an enormous amount of fundamentals supposedly going on. And that's my whole point about all of these investment vehicles. They're completely derivative, they're derived, and they're completely and totally and utterly manipulated.
So I think the best thing, and that's what we've done in the past 8 years, is the best thing that we can invest in is our land, our animals, our food supply, and make it as inflation proof as possible, because the cows, inflation's not touching our cows.
And that's proof that it is inflation proof. And the appreciation is non-taxable as well, which once again, that
my seeds that I saved for the past 7 years, guess what? They still grow.
And they're inflation proof.
They're inflation proof. All of the food that we're growing in our garden is inflation proof. So these are just things, that we're working towards. And as we're sitting here, as the Lord would have it, we said we wanted to make these strides towards moving to being off grid at some point, and our dryer broke, so I have my clothes hanging now. I do one load of laundry every day, and then I hang the clothes up and they're drying, or I hang them up outside, either one. And that is one more step towards pushing us to this more inflation-proof household system that we can function and just hedge ourselves more. And it's just such a great feeling.
It's so satisfying, and how and it's also when you're in a hyper inflationary environment, it's very easy when you're in a very cash flush, low inflationary environment, like, I'll just buy it, like, big deal, right? Like, big deal, and even as a percentage of my income, it's not that much. And then you're like, wow, well, wait a minute. A 2x12 went from $18 to $55. And now my $3,600 wood mill is like a drop in the bucket. I can crank out $4,000 worth of wood off of that mill in a day, and then that mill's paid for, and then literally every day I run that mill, I can pay for it again and again and again. And it's
and just the stress that relieves of not having to constantly watch the fluctuation. Oh, what's the price of lumber right now? What's the price of lumber right now? Because when you're on a homestead, there are constant projects.
And look, if you're relocating,
projects.
just get this silly notion out of your mind you're going to move and build your dream home. Because I'm just telling you, that would be insane, in my opinion, at the current cost of materials. The base mortgage rate right now is like 5.75, y'all. Yeah. And that 610 ARM is at 8%. And if the Fed moves the base point a half a point, that inner lending rate a half a point, 30-year and 15 and 30-year mortgages are going to be in the 8%. And when that kind of interest pressure starts pushing back against this psychotic skyrocketing land and housing prices, that junk is going to pop.
Well, and not to mention, what is the value of that home going to be assessed at, and what are your taxes going to be?
And that junk's going to pop
on
to
a
boot.
new home. Yeah.
And probably what they'll do is they'll assess it absolutely at the absolute peak. They're probably running the projections right now, and they're going to lock in at the peak, and then that thing is going to crap the bed.
We've seen it before, right?
Yeah,
this is nothing
we've
new.
seen it. We've seen all this before, except now it's just times 20 trillion.
And I think with the climate of what's going on, it's a great time to scale back, to simplify, to reassess, to redefine what your dream home should look like. Okay, so let's just let's grow up a little bit, and let's mature past Pinterest, and let's say realistically, if you are moving to a piece of land and you do have to build, let's put our grown-up pants on, and let's
if you're a man, put your grown-up pants on.
If you're a woman, put your grown-up skirt on, put your apron on. And let's put your grandmom's apron on, and let's think.
And no, I'm not joking.
Let's think back, and put yourselves a couple generations back, and think soberly about what your homestead should be and what you should be happy with your homestead. And I bet it would be a really simple homestead. I mean, we see other people doing this, right? I mean, look at Cog Hill, right? They're building their dream homestead. Their dream homestead is probably like a third of the house that their original house was.
Dude, those people are so practical.
And it's
I love
so practical, and it's concrete floors, and it's beautiful, but it's simple, it's simplified, it's scaled back, it's scaled down, and I think that's what these last few years have taught us, reminded us anyway.
The beauty of simplicity.
Yes, absolutely. And less it can still be beautiful, and it can be simple and beautiful, and that's so much better, and it's so much more practical when you're on a homestead to have a simple house.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree, Texas Mom.
So yeah, there's just some of the things that we wanted to share with you guys. All the things that we're doing here already. You've seen the garden, you see the tour, you can
do it. We show you all this stuff because you can do it. And everybody's like, "Oh, how do you have this green thumb?
Just do it.
How are you having all these peaches this year? How are you doing?" I'm like, I have no idea.
You just do it.
I don't know how I'm doing it. I don't know what the secret sauce is. Is it the multiple varieties of the different fruit trees? Is it the intensive planting? Is it the chickens and the ducks running? Is it the livestock guardian dogs keeping the birds off? I don't know. Is it a little bit? Is it 1% of every one of those things? Probably. Mm-hmm. Is it all the mulch and the soil building generation and the mycorrhiza and all these different things? And does that mean that everything's going great and we don't have fire blight on some of our pear trees? No. And we don't have tent worms and everything?
Sure,
no, of course not.
Loss.
You stay on top of it. There is always a percentage of loss. There is a percentage of share that you're going to share with your critters. There's a percentage of share that you're going to share with your pest pressure, and all that stuff. And you need to have enough to share.
Right.
You know, that's part of it. If you want a peach tree and you have however many children you have, I mean, you better plant at least 2 or 3. There's a good chance one of them might die. And then there's a good chance that the birds are going to get one and everything. So plant at least 3.
Just keep planting.
Yeah, and then
Just
plant
keep planting.
different varieties. You know, we have probably 10 variety of peaches or so.
Sure. Redundancy in any preparedness
2
scenario.
is 1, 1 is none.
Yes. Redundancy is the key. Succession planning, redundancy. At worst case, you have abundance that you can't handle, and then you can be a blessing to share.
Yeah.
And
Yep, somebody was asking me this week, are you going to do, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do, like, a CSA box? Well, they didn't know what CSA was, so I had to explain that to them, but they understood. And I said, I would like to. I don't know if it'll happen this year, but it'll probably happen next year.
maybe.
You know, we'll see.
We'll see. We will see. We'll know when we've reached over abundance because we'll be bursting at the seams and we will have no...
We can't store it. We can't can it. And,
Sure.
hey, come and you pick. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Or whatever, something like that.
Absolutely. But we just wanted to jump on here and share our opinions with you all. If you have an opinion on any of these things, please leave it below. We would love to read through and see what you all are thinking out there and what you're doing and
what do you think about monkeypox?
and what do you think about that? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Lockdowns are coming, y'all.
We will see you all very, very soon. We hope you have a super blessed day. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you right back here on the farm.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.